Good evening, dear viewers, and welcome to the News Bulletin at 8, brought to you by our number one news provider, Eswatini TV. I am Nandomiso Vilagata alongside Zamanze Manze. First, let's take a look at today's headlines. The Minister of Finance says this year's budget will prioritize three sectors, which are road maintenance, job creation and service delivery. Director in the Ministry of Agriculture says as the country continues to receive rains, farmers should continue planting crops, especially legumes and maize in the low field. The World Health Organization Eswatini urges Amaswati to quit smoking, warning that with the outbreak of COVID-19, smokers are at a greater risk of being critical due to the virus. The news in detail. The Minister of Finance, Neil Reichenberg, says this year's budget will prioritize three sectors, which are road maintenance, job creation and service delivery. The minister said this when explaining the sectors that will take priority in the 2022-2023 budget, which the minister is expected to table in Parliament soon.
As the year begins, the Minister of Finance, Neil Reichenberg, is expected to table his budget in Parliament. The minister says this year his budget has three main focal areas which will take priority.
Obviously the budget is still being finalized. We have our cabinet retreat this week, and at the moment there is huge focus on three main areas in Eswatini where we desperately need focus to. The first one is service delivery, just general service delivery, where Emaswati are getting services, standing in long queues, waiting long times, finding the internet is down, whatever reason, that services are not being delivered quickly, number one. Number two is roads, a priority on, which means Eswatini, we are very good with building new roads, by the way. We're actually up there in the best in Africa when it comes to building, but at the moment we definitely have got a major problem in maintenance of roads in Eswatini. So which means even though we've built roads or we've made roads, gravel roads, the maintenance is lacking. So there's a large focus there. The third large focus area is job creation. So really looking at what can we do. And at the moment in Eswatini there is a general labor jobs. It's not that there isn't a huge demand for that, but there's a large demand for better than general labor jobs. People are not queuing up to cut sugarcane or queuing up to dig holes in the forestry areas, but there is still a lot of unemployed people looking for slightly better, people with education, people with a matric at least, or maybe even a higher education. And that's really where the focus is now. How do we create jobs in that space to be able to help them as well?
The minister says the budget is given careful attention to ensure every sector is accommodated. For Eswatini TV News, Nelson Langamandla with Mbongwa Dube Mbabane.
And again, the Minister of Finance, Neil Reichenberg, says government is keeping a close eye for tax avoidance strategies by multinational companies. The minister was responding to a finding by the International Monetary Fund that countries in sub-Saharan Africa lose a lot of money every year due to unpaid corporate tax by the multinational companies that use different strategies to avoid it.
The International Monetary Fund says countries in the sub-Saharan Africa lose about $730 million every year in corporate tax due to avoidance strategies by multinational companies. The Minister of Finance, Neil Reichenberg, says government is keeping a close eye for this kind of behavior from companies.
The remedy to fix this is obviously to look at our legislation and see what we can do. So as Eswatini, we have been looking at this over the last while. We have a draft, in fact, Cabinet has approved, it's ready to table in Parliament, income tax amendment bill, which has actually got a few measures in place just to try and take us along the road to try to close those loopholes. And as one closes loopholes, companies sometimes look at new ones, and this is the normal thing where one in a sense chases the income the tax from the big companies, because they've got large sets of lawyers and they can look at clever ways to try and avoid tax, and then one has to just respond as government and try and close the holes. But at the same time, I think what we need to keep in mind is we also still have a strategy to try to reduce the income tax, the company tax in Eswatini, and so that one has a carrot and a stick, so we can also try and motivate the multilateral companies. So if you're looking for a place, or if you're wanting, if you are making tax, and often when you're working in multi-tax jurisdictions, sometimes it's a matter of a choice, where you can show more tax, where you show less tax. Whether it's right or wrong is maybe another story. But if you have a low tax rate, you find that often more tax is actually paid in one's country by the big companies. That's where obviously a lot of our corporate tax comes from. And so for that reason, if we can reduce that slightly, it could also mean that we actually have a more conducive environment and these companies actually come here and we actually get more tax rather than less tax at the end of the day.
The minister says government continues to look for ways to make paying tax easier so that people do not feel the need to avoid it. For Eswatini TV News, Nelson Dlangamandla with Mbongwa Dube Mbabane.
Director Agriculture in the Ministry of Agriculture, Nelson Mavuso, says as the country continues to receive rains, farmers should continue planting crops, especially legumes and maize in the lowfield. Mavuso said this during an interview over maize that have leached nutrients due to the rains.
Almost all parts of the country are receiving rains. It is for this reason that the Director of Agriculture in the Ministry of Agriculture, Nelson Mavuso, encourages farmers to continue planting crops.
We appreciate very much that farmers will be, at this time of the year, are supposed to be planting the other crops instead of maize, especially in the high-lying areas where cold is expected to come very soon. But for those in the warm areas, they can still plant the quick maturing varieties that takes about 90 to 110 days to reach maturity. Maize can be planted in those areas of that duration. With the rest of the country, this is the time to plant beans, all the legume crops that you can plant except for Bambara groundnuts, Tindlubu, and the sweet potatoes. Those can be planted now. It's the right time for them, including potatoes. Farmers are encouraged to now start planting those crops.
On another issue, Mavuso says farmers should take care of their crops.
We have observed that the rainfall has come at the wrong time and it has been in excessive amounts, resulting in most crops losing a lot or leaching out most of the materials that has been applied to the soil. And we are observing right now that some farmers are actually not putting fertilizers during planting. And that one is what is actually going to reduce the amount of yield that they're going to get. We look at this crop, it has leaves up to 7, 8 leaves, and within a few weeks it must be flowering, yet it has not reached the stage where the farmer said he was going to apply fertilizers when it reaches knee height. Now it's already old. There is nothing that you can do in terms of adding fertilizers, but with nitrogen fertilizer there is a liquid that you can achieve by that. So we expect farmers to actually comply with the recommendations that we make, that you plant with fertilizers, top dress with the nitrogen fertilizers. Then you are going to attain the yield that is actually capable, that the plant, the seeds that you have planted are going to be able to give you.
In the post-COVID-19 economic recovery plan, the agriculture sector is expected to be pumped with over 5 billion emalangeni as means to create over 6,000 job opportunities. For Eswatini TV News, Fortune Dlangamandla, with Temikosi Mavimbela Mbabane.
The World Health Organization Eswatini urges Amaswati to quit smoking, warning that with the outbreak of COVID-19, smokers are at a greater risk of being critical due to the virus. This was said by the organization's Health Promotion Officer, Dr. Kevin Makatsange, when giving details about the ongoing Quit Smoking campaign, which is run by the organization in different countries in the world.
The World Health Organization is currently running a campaign urging people to quit smoking. The organization's Health Promotion Officer in the country, Dr. Kevin Makatsange, says Eswatini is part of the campaign.
Eswatini, about 12% of men, they actually use tobacco, and about 1.2% of women, they use tobacco. So overall, about 6% of Eswatini, they actually use tobacco. Now, what has been observed now is with the COVID pandemic, people who smoke, they have a 50% chance of developing severe and critical disease and even ending up dying. And now looking at this risk for COVID, and also on top of that, tobacco, it actually causes other diseases as well, as you are aware. Eswatini, WHO in Eswatini, we are really working with the Ministry of Health, and not only with the Ministry of Health, we have what is called the National Coordinating Mechanism for Tobacco Control, which is a multi-sectoral. It's actually made of different sectors, and we are pushing the issues of tobacco control under a project which is called the Framework Convention on Tobacco Control 2030 project, which is actually coordinated from the Ministry of Health with support from WHO, developing a policy for tobacco control. Then we are developing regulations for tobacco control that will work together with the Tobacco Products Control Act of 2013. And then there are also a lot of campaigns that are actually ongoing and partnering. And one of the partnerships is actually with Amical, which is the municipalities, to try to make our towns and cities tobacco free.
The World Health Organization says tobacco kills 8 million people globally. Of these, 146,000 are from Africa. For Eswatini TV News, Nelson Ngamandla with Mbongwa Dube Mbabane.
Although all 5 major dams in the Kingdom of Eswatini are overspilling, the Mjoli Dam has decreased by 2% this week compared to last week. This is partly because valves have been opened to reduce the level of water in the dam so that it cannot be damaged. This is contained in a statement about dam levels released by the Ministry of Natural Resources and Energy.
The Kingdom of Eswatini is experiencing continuous rains which have caused rivers to overflow and dams to overspill. Too much water in a dam can erode its walls. To avoid this, the valves at Mjoli Dam have been opened, allowing water to flow into nearby rivers. Last week, the dam was at 107% full. On Monday, it had decreased by 2% to 105% full. Acting Director of Water Affairs, Makosini Koza, says this was also caused by the reduction in rainfall in the past week within the Mbuluzi Basin. A dam level statement by the Ministry of Natural Resources and Energy shows that all 5 major dams in the Kingdom of Eswatini are full. The dams are not just full, but they are also overspilling. These 5 dams are Mjoli, Lubovane, Maguga, Hawane and Lupotlo. The ministry has urged the public to be vigilant of rising water levels in dams and rivers. The ministry has also requested motorists not to cross flooded low-level bridges. It has further appealed to parents and guardians to accompany their kids when going to school and ensure that they safely cross rivers. In recent weeks, some people have been swept by the raging flooded rivers across the country. Some survived, but others did not. Viewers are urged to be extra cautious when crossing rivers. For Eswatini TV News, Temgosima Vimbela, Mbabane.
The suspect in the matter of a stolen Toyota Lexus has appeared in court. Sibusiso Jonathan Khumalo is said to have posed as a soldier when driving the car under the pretense that he was going to get money from one of the Umbutho Eswatini Defence Force camps.
Another matter that was presided by Magistrate Mthokozi Dlamini at the Matapa Circuit Court was that of Sibusiso Jonathan Khumalo, who stands accused of stealing a Toyota Lexus. Khumalo pleaded guilty to the charge of contravening Section 3 of the Theft of Motor Vehicles Act 16 of 1991. The charge sheet says, on January 14, 2022, Khumalo near Umura Motors Investments in Matapa, he allegedly did wrongfully and unlawfully steal a motor vehicle, which is silver grey in color. The state paraded the director of Umura Motors Investment, Ozeya Ahmed. Ahmed informed the court that the accused person had promised to buy the motor vehicle at 130,000 Emalangeni after its left window and rear to have been fixed. Ahmed says he called an electrician who was only able to fix the window. All along, the accused Khumalo said He was a member of Umbutho Eswatini Defense Force and he left the man with his superiors in one of the camps, so once the car had been fixed, he will drive to collect the money. Ahmed says since it was Friday, he had to rush to attend to a prayer, and when he returned, he found that the accusers left with the car. He says after some time, he called Kumalo, but his phone was not available, and he quickly rushed to the police to report the matter. He said the car, together with Kumalo, were found on Monday at Sitegi. During an inspection log, the accused person alleged that he did not steal the motor vehicle. However, it was given to him by Umura Motors investment worker and the electrician. He said his crime is that he disappeared with the motor vehicle for some days, adding that he was pleading guilty to the charge as he did not want to waste the court's time. For Eswatini TV News, Fortune Dlangamandla, with Vuminkosi Nzinisa Matapa.
Another accused in the alleged theft of diesel amounting to about 660,000 Malangeni has been granted bail. This accused person has been in custody since the 10th of January 2022. This accused is a security guard and he is alleged to have colluded with truck drivers to steal the fuel.
Last week, 2 of 5 suspects in the alleged theft of diesel worth about 660,000 Malangeni were granted bail by the High Court. The diesel is said to have been property of Engine Depot in Matsapa. The third accused has since filed an agent bail application before the High Court. The accused, Herindo Damalinga, aged 37, told the court in his bail application that he has been in custody at Zakele Remand Center since the 10th of January 2022. Malinga alleged that he did not know anything about the stolen diesel. He told the court that he is a security guard employed by Fidelity Security Services stationed at Southern Star Logistics in Matsapa. Malinga told the court that his continued incarceration would lead to him losing his job. He also told the court that this job is his only source of income, with which he maintains his wife and 3 children who are all school-going. The court then granted him 15,000 bail and ordered that he pays 3,000 Malangeni cash and provide surety worth 12,000 Malangeni. This matter was before Judge John Makakula, while Sandile Senzo Shabangu of NE Kininza Attorneys represented the accused. For Eswatini TV News, Temgosi Mavimbela, High Court.
Police are looking for relatives or people who may know Sibusiso Dlamini, who was brought to Eswatini from South Africa. Police say Dlamini is mute and epileptic. Those who may know him have been asked to report to the Mbabane police station.
This man is believed to be Sibusiso Dlamini, and police are looking for his relatives or people who may know him. Deputy Police Information and Communications Officer Nosipo Mnguni says Dlamini is currently kept at the Mbabane police station where his relatives can find him. Mnguni explains more.
Singamaphoyisa embobene sizwe siyacela kufiniswa kihlobo yakhe nobabele obonakala lapha etithombeni bethu tabomabonakude. Kusho ukuthi lona lofunelwa kihlobo ulethe lapha Eswatini iconsular yase South Africa. Ukuthi bathi bacela ukuthi simfunise kihlobo ngoba ubonakala ukuthi akasiko wakhona lena eNingizimu Afrika. Lesinako nje lesikwathi ukuthi umuntu lophila nokubateka ukuthi akakhona ukukhuluma kanti futhi kunaso sifo sikuwa. Ke basitshele kona ukuthi kule nyanga lesisuka kiyo ya December uke waba nokuphatheka wangena esibhedlela. Kungilapho ke lapho labo bathi sithe ukuthi abasukume bafune ihlobo lakhe. Singakucondzile kahle ukuthi ingabe vele babe lona lokuthiwa igama lakhe nguSibusiso Dlamini. Kodwa ke lesinako kuthiwa yena ngakhona ungathi umuntu lowasuka evela komakhelwane laseMozambique. Sisafuna ke kwathi ukuthi sisaqhubeka nje siyaphenya kahle ukuthi ingabe vele wasuka kuphi wasuka nini nokuthi lokusekala kangwani ngabe singagcina sithole njani ukuthi simbusile kudodela ihlobo lakhe.
Those who know Dlamini can call the Mbabane Police Station Commander, Ms. B. Dube, on 7604-3185 or Mbabane Desk Officer Mr. D. Makanya on the number 7608-9712. They can also call the emergency numbers 999 or 499. For Eswatini TV News, Temgosima Vimbela, Mbabane.
Dear viewers, we'll now take a look at our financial updates.
Standard Bank. It can be.
Welcome back. You're still watching Eswatini TV and here are your sports news for tonight. The chairman of the Women Football Association, Bonkosi Mhlanga, says they've already started working on the objectives they promised when they took office. Mhlanga was speaking when introducing the new Chief Operations Officer of the association in Mbabane.
The Women Football Association last year held their elections where Bonkosi Mhlanga was the eventual winner as the chairman of the association. Amongst other promises made, Mhlanga said they were going to have someone who will take care of the association's office, which will help team have easy access to informations. Mhlanga says they've already started working on those promises.
So kulo mnyaka wa 2022 nje sesivele siqalile sendawana nomsebenzi ukuthi sibe nalo Chief Operation Officer nje is one of imisebenzi lebesitask yona ukuthi siwende ngema members. So lokunye lesisetakbuka lesitaqhubeka nako. Nema sponsors siyaqhubeka siyafuna ama sponsors lawo labangasibambisa kudlalisa ileague yethu ne knockout nasingaba nema sponsors nje vele siyaqhubeka siyafuna and i-development nakhona sesiqalile kwenda i-development kukhona indzawo lesesihambile safika kuto at the same time because i-development idzinga ema-funds siyazama ukuthi sithole ama-funds lapho singawathola khona sinokhona ukuthi sibadlalise labantwana sikhona ukuthi siqhubekele phambili special development ngiyo lesitabe sibuke yona kakhulu kanti nema-courses sitaba nawo because konke kutaqala ekutheneni bafunze nemalunga ethu ama-courses sitaba nawo itawuphela leyo 2022 sitabe sesibe nawo bo-administration nalamanye nje ama-courses sitaba nawo.
Tando Nkosi Hlashwako says she hopes women football will be able to do well internationally, not just in local football.
Ngitimisela ukuthi umdlalo welibhola labo make ungagcini nje kangwane kuphela but siqhubeke sikhone kuyawudlala siwine futhi nakulamanye emave.
The women football offices are housed at Kwacha House in Mbabane. Reporting for Eswatini TV Sports, I'm Linda Dlamini, Mbabane.
Mhlabanyati Community Football Club star Mhlengi Fagutse says him to start looking at how he can play football for a living. Fagutse was speaking ahead of his trip to Malaga in Spain for the next 6 months.
Every football player has a dream to get one chance, go and showcase his skills overseas in one of the top world leagues. It looks like Mhlamayati Community Football star Mhlengi Fagutse is already living his dream after getting an opportunity to fly out to Spain to train with Malaga Football Club for the next 6 months.
Ngiyodlalela iFC Malaga City elithuba ngilithole ku-UK Schools Football Program lapho bangiscout khona ukuthi ngibe ne-6-month trial eFC Malaga City. Ngifika lena ngidaqhubeka nje ngento engiphume ngako ngidlala ibhola. Umsebenzi uqala manje hayi ukuthi sengitholele lithuba sekugcine nje ngisebenze kakhulu ngitimisele ngoba akusi guarantee lo kusase sithi sigaba nekugcine ngiyekiso ngifuna ukudlala ngomdlalo webhola professional.
According to Fagutse, move to Malaga was facilitated by United Kingdom Schools Football Program. He has played for some of the biggest local clubs such as Mbabane Solos, Mbabane Citizen and many more. Reporting for Eswatini TV Sports, I'm Linda Dlamini, Mbabane.
That is all we had for tonight, but before we wrap up, let us take a recap of today's headlines. The Minister of Finance says this year's budget will prioritize 3 sectors, which are road maintenance, job creation and service delivery. Director in the Ministry of Agriculture says as the country continues to receive rains, farmers should continue planting crops, especially legumes and maize in the low field. The World Health Organization Eswatini urges Amaswati to quit smoking, warning that with the outbreak of COVID-19, smokers are at a greater risk of being critical due to the virus. That brings us to the end of our news bulletin tonight. Up next is the weather forecast for selected towns. Good night, Eswatini.